The matchup we've all seen before. Alvaro Arbeloa's Real Madrid are welcoming Pep Guardiola's Manchester City to the Bernabeu tomorrow in their first leg matchup. In the round of 16, you can watch that here on Paramount Plus at 4 p.m. Eastern. Now, Real Madrid have won 3 of the last 5 seasons, and Man City have won 2 of those games, coming in last year's league phase. Will Erling Haaland finally find that form Pep Guardiola has been searching for, or will an injury hit Real Madrid still be able to come out on top? When we think about these two sides, JayDee, you think about the magnitude. Real Madrid taking on Manchester City. We want to see them in a semi-final. We'd love to see them in the final. We've got them in the round of 16. But does this tell us more about potentially Real Madrid's form? Because they weren't a seeded team going into, they weren't a 1 through 8, were they, like Manchester City? Does this kind of look a bit more negatively on the Real Madrid side?
I think when you kind of get to the knockout stages, I think all of those sort of forms go out of the window. And it's more equal? It's just, it really is just about at this stage how you manage the occasion, especially because you've got the home and the away tie combined. So it's not just in terms of what you can do in your home floor, it's also what you can do on the away pitch, right? So I do think both of these teams are technically out of form. Like, you look at the consistency they've shown over those years. When we're looking through the graphic, I think about the better years of when these two teams played at the later stages of the competition. And I don't think either of these two teams would admit that this is the strongest team that they've put out there in regards to when they faced each other. But looking at both of them, I can see the shortcomings, but this does feel like a stronger Manchester City team in regards to what Real Madrid are dealing with right now. Just overall, especially the absence of Mbappe, it's such a big gap on their team. It's such a big gap in terms of their direction, their stronghold. I don't see enough in terms of what they can do in terms of as a threat in comparison to what they can do. Because I think even Marmoush being on the graphic here is making me smile. And I just need to understand, like, because Erling Haaland has almost been forgotten about, like, as if he's not the best number 9 in world football. So it really does talk about the depth that they have, the quality that they have in comparison to their teammates right now or their contemporaries.
Yeah, when I oftentimes think of this tie in seasons past, it's almost felt like a final. It has. More than the final itself, right? How many times have you stayed up watching the match? I mean, in previous editions of this matchup, I've watched the game 2 times over, 3 times over, because there was just an aura about this tie, right? You look at the players, not on this graphic, the players of yesteryear, Kevin De Bruyne's. I mean, every single player on each team just about was either the best at their position or one of the best at their position in world football. Now, when you look at the 2 managers, though, it's almost as if both managers, because of the absences, they're now going in opposite directions. For City, for the first time, you practically have a full-strength squad. For Real Madrid, man, it's like the walking wounded, right? It's been a living hospital in Madrid. So it's going to be really dependent on which superstars put their team on their back, I think, and lead their team to glory in the first leg.
I know you want to bring in Steph. I just want to say something to you. I covered this game for the Champions League, and it must have been 2 seasons ago. And the atmosphere, the energy, especially in the Bernabeu, was just on a completely different level. I'd never felt electricity like that before a football match had even started. And I looked at the way that Man City team handled that occasion. Even though they probably weren't able to progress and all the rest of it, it was still the expertise and the experience they had in handling that occasion. I just don't see that same aura with that team now. That team that struggled against Celta Vigo, that team that struggled against Getafe, they haven't got that same allure. But I've learned one thing in the Champions League, and so I bring you on, my boy. Never bet against Real Madrid. There's something special about them.
And that's where you always kind of, you have that fear of you're going to pick against them, because you know that in this competition they can change it. But in this case, with this Real Madrid side that we're currently seeing, we talked about so much about the Kylian Mbappe dependence of this team. I don't think you really noticed that dependence until he's out of the team. And now you're seeing it. Where are the goals going to come from? It needs to be Vinny. Vinny needs to have a epic tie to make sure that Real Madrid has an opportunity to go through. He needs to be the superstar to carry this team right now. Back line has been in shambles. And it's not the same aura that you're talking about with Real Madrid because there's no consistency. It's been the Xabi Alonso era that lasted a few months. And then, obviously, now with Arbeloa, it's just not, you're not seeing that response from the team. But this is the biggest issue.
You look at this,
with Real Madrid.
7 of their key players are injured. How do they deal with that?
You're talking about the 2 top ones there. That is the core of your team, the core of this squad. 100%. And you continue to go down. Rodrigo, who's been a fantastic player, and Alvaro Carreras, for me, has been one of the more consistent players Real Madrid has had all season. So they're behind the 8 ball to start this time. But again, it's Real Madrid. They're at home. The magic of the Champions League. You can't count them out, but you understand why they're not the favorites here and are far away from being the favorites.
Yeah, I'd love to see the odds and how much of a difference they are in favorites. So one player, you mentioned Rodrigo, and I'm so happy you did, because when it comes to this tie, Hannah, he's actually been the main man, right? So many people look at Vinny, but you think of when they made it, I think, to the Champions League final with Big Ben's, Karim Benzema, when you have this Ballon d'Or winning season, Rodrigo played out of his mind against City. The last time they played, 2-1 win for City, Rodrigo scored the only goal for Real Madrid, right? You think of the biggest matchups in the Champions League. So him being out, if I'm Pep Guardiola, look, you never want to see players injured in the beautiful game, but that is one of the players I'm thinking, oh my gosh, if there was one guy I don't want to see, it was definitely him, because he has City's number.
And I will also say as well, it's this is what I've been concerned about with Real Madrid all year. They've had no consistency in terms of their relationship between their centre-halves, and it's shown. And you need that stability. That's the reason why Arsenal have a good foundation. That's the reason why Barcelona and Bayern Munich have been able to progress further along in the latter part of the season. I haven't seen that for Real Madrid, and it hasn't always been their fault, because, of course, we speak about the injuries and the inconsistencies, but then there's no rhythm or connection in terms of between the two centre-halves, and that is the foundation of any success in any team.
When we look at this injury list, the main one is Kylian Mbappe. Look, he's been out for 3 games now. They've won 2, lost 1. That loss was against Getafe in La Liga. Now they're up against Manchester City in the Champions League, and it's like, how do you go from losing in La Liga to trying to win in the Champions League?
I'd say now they were so flat against Getafe. It was so poor. I think did me and you cover that game on scoreline? Yeah, we did, and we understood. We weren't sitting there. If I remember correctly, Steph, we weren't sitting there like, oh, Real Madrid were unlucky. They were creating a whole number of chances. To be honest, they were quite fortunate to lose only by 1 goal. They were dominated, and then to reflect it again in the Celta Vigo performance, even though Fede Valverde will get the headlines for scoring a 95th minute winner, again it was another flat performance. There was no fluidity in the final third. There was no creativity and the over-reliance on Mbappe has really showcased to me that there is no other star in this team. Unfortunately, especially in the final third, there's no other star, and they don't trust anybody else to turn around and fulfill those shoes, which hasn't been Real Madrid in the past. If I think about even some of the golden years, even the Galacticos, like when Ronaldo was out or Raul was out, you would have Owen come on, you would have players that could step into a mould, and you know instantly they want to showcase why they're wearing that white shirt. I don't see that within this squad. Do I think they have good players? Yes. Do I think they have players that understand the magnitude of representing Real Madrid right now? No.
Yeah. To show the significance of Kylian Mbappe, and we see the numbers with and without, right? You talk about players that need to step up. You'd mentioned Vinny Jr. So just to give context in how significant and otherworldly Mbappe has been this season in just the Champions League, right? 13 goals. Leading the competition in goals. They've scored north of 20 goals. I mean, the guy's got over half of the team's goals, right? The next highest goal scorer, guess who? Vinny Jr., 3 goals. That is a massive, massive void you're trying to replace. But as of yet, though, it looks like it's Vinny's team. And I'm so happy for Vinny because he's been through hell and back. But you can't just do it with Vinny alone, right? Because when I watch Real Madrid week in and week out, even at Celta, Getafe, it doesn't matter who they play. It's just pretty much rolling the dice and say, hey, Vinny, come on, do something miraculous. Give a moment of brilliance. But this is the team that we're predicting goes out, right? You're looking at some.
Why are you saying that, Chief?
Because he's looking at some of these names.
I've just seen one matchup, but I want my boy Steph to come in. But
go ahead.
Yeah, I've seen one matchup that I'm genuinely in fear for. This is by the way, when we work at this network, this is my favourite thing to turn around and talk about when I see the projected lineups, because automatically I can start breaking down where the battles are. And when I see Doku against Alexander-Arnold, and my heart right now is almost praying for Trent already, because he has struggled in one-on-ones this year, was at fault in terms of one of the goals last week. And now all of a sudden you face a Jeremy Doku who's just come back from injury, looks very, very sharp again, looks like he wants to get one-on-ones and prove a point, especially at the business end of the season. I need Arbeloa to start helping with the doubles. If that doesn't occur, we're now talking about Camavinga having to come across, and then all of a sudden you've got Rodri and Bernardo and Xerxes. All these players are going to find so much space in and around that box. It could be an overload really, really quickly, and that's how I look at it automatically.
It's not just Doku on that side, because you look at the other side, Cherki has been in phenomenal form for Manchester City. Him going at Mendy as well. Both sides have to struggle. If Vinny, who, let's be honest, Vinny is not exactly the star when it comes to tracking back and defending, Tchouaméni's going to have to move over to that side. It's going to open up so much space in the middle. And when you have a Marmoush and a Haaland coming through the middle of the pitch with Cherki on the right and Doku on the left, look, on paper, it does not look good for Real Madrid. Of course, you have to play the games. That's why we play it. But on paper, it doesn't look good.
This is why someone like Jude Bellingham is so important. People can laugh what they say about Jude Bellingham and say, oh, he's not this and he's not that. Let me tell you what he is. He's an absolute workhorse that almost works for two players on the pitch and can do it going forward and going backwards. So he can cover gaps and he can do double-ups really quickly as well as still supporting his forward line. That industry is so underrated, especially in this modern game where everything's about retaining the ball. It's also about what you do off the ball. The best coaches ever said to me, every game of football is won off of the football. Whoever works the hardest 99% of the time will win the game. Unfortunately, Real Madrid might work the hardest tonight and they might still lose. So I'm going against even that coach's philosophy because I just see so much control of Man City in the middle of that pitch and I don't see enough of players understanding the magnitude and more importantly being able to compete against these players on the ball.
I'm gonna push back on that statement because there are some players who do understand it. Not enough.
Yeah.
Not enough. There are some players in this team, right? He understands it. He's been the difference a lot of times.
He
understands it.
We're in trouble,
right? The big one in the back line, Ferland Mendy, started against Celta. I thought that he got better as the game went on. He had some nervy moments. This is a big occasion for him. And Asensio as well. You remember last season in the playoff round, knockout round, he was part of a 17-pass sequence where he clips it for his first Champions League assist to Kylian Mbappe, right? So him being steady makes him steady. But the main man, apart from Vinny, that is so crucial, you talk about Arda Güler, is Fede Valverde, right? Fede Valverde under Arbeloa has been back to some of his best football. And it's so good to see him playing in the midfield. I'd actually switch these two. So Arda's playing in here and Fede in here. They have the freedom to interchange. But now, when these two have that partnership out here, keep an eye on this, right? I'm going to put my under Lahoud hat to give you some tactics. This pass from Trent in behind to a slashing run from Vinny, or this pass in behind to a slashing run for Vinny, because Manchester City, as we saw in the Newcastle match, the one thing you are guaranteed they will do in the Champions League oftentimes is play a high line.
Yeah.
They will go and try and press you, especially this Madrid side. So if City play the high line, that one pass in behind for Vinny, Trent can do it. Valverde can do it. Tchouaméni, if he's on it, can do it as well, and that will be their key to success.
And that might be where they have to play, because the back line for Manchester City, they've given up goals, they have conceded goals, but they're going to be under pressure so much. Real Madrid will, that they're going to have to break forward on the break with long balls from Alexander-Arnold and from Valverde. They can't score against Manchester City. It's about preventing goals on the other end.
I'm sure Man City will want Haaland as well to start scoring goals. He only had 4 goals this year.
Don't worry about Erling Haaland.
Okay.
He'll be back.
Noted, noted.
Thanks for watching this video from Morning Footy. For all news and insights regarding leagues around the world like EFL, Serie A, and all UEFA competitions, both men's and women's, don't forget to sign up for Paramount+.